You have, you definitely seen the picture. I mean, we all have.
Oh, yeah, the iconic one.
Right. Earth from space at night. Those glowing golden webs of light just stretching across the continent.
It's beautiful, honestly.
It is. You look at it
Yeah.
and you naturally feel this sense of awe. We're told it's a map of human progress, right? Like,
Yeah.
you assume those blinding bright spots are these wealthy, bustling hubs of civilization.
Right. And the dark spots, you just assume they're empty.
Exactly. Just uninhabited nature. Nothing to see there. But what if I told you that image is actually one of the most dangerous optical illusions in modern economics?
It really is. I mean, it's a very comforting illusion. But when you actually dig into the data, the prosperity you see in the night sky is a giant lie.
A complete lie. Now, I have to admit, when I first started looking at the sources we gathered for this deep dive, I was highly skeptical.
I don't blame you.
Because, I mean, those Earth at night maps, they've been used by serious economists for decades. The World Bank uses them. Major global institutions.
Oh, absolutely. They treat it like gospel.
Right. So I'm thinking, isn't light still a generally good proxy for human activity? It just feels like a massive stretch to call it a lie just because, the data might not be perfectly precise.
But that's the thing. It is not just about a lack of precision. It's about systematic erasure.
Systematic erasure. Let that sink in.
Yeah. That glowing map is actively deceiving us. And by extension, it's deceiving the policymakers who rely on it. It hides massive, sprawling poverty under this glamorous glare.
It's basically airbrushing reality.
Exactly. It is systematically erasing hundreds of millions of human beings from the map, just writing them out of existence.
Which brings us to the core mission of our deep dive today. We are breaking down a truly mind-blowing, paradigm-shifting research paper.
Total bombshell.
Yeah, published by the National Bureau of Economic Research. It's by a team of 4 brilliant spatial scientists and economists: Catherine Baragwanath, Rand Goldblatt, Gordon H. Hanson, and Ahmed K.
They did incredible work here.
They really did. They basically proved that the world's most powerful governments have been running the world totally blind.
Running it based on broken data. They proved that relying on these nighttime satellite maps is leading to catastrophic misallocations of trillions of dollars.
Trillions. With a T.
Right, because planners are looking at these glowing blobs to make life or death decisions.
Like where to put a road.
Exactly. Where do we build the next major highway? Which regions qualify for hospital funding? Who gets integrated into the global economy and who gets left to rot?
And because the map is broken, the decisions are fundamentally flawed. I mean, it's terrifying.
It is.
So to understand how deep this deception goes, we first have to understand why we started worshiping this map in the first place, right?
We have to look at the invisible world hiding right underneath that light.
Right. Let's unpack the history real quick. Because for decades, the global development community shared one absolute belief.
Light equals GDP.
Light equals GDP. It became like an unquestioned religion in economics.
And look, to be fair to the early economists who adopted this, you can kind of understand their logic.
Sure. I mean, more money means more electricity.
Exactly. Measuring GDP in developing nations is incredibly difficult. You have massive informal economies.
Cash under the table.
Right. Cash-in-hand businesses that never get reported to a tax authority. You have vast rural populations. Conducting a reliable census in those conditions, it's expensive, it's slow.
And usually super inaccurate anyway.
Exactly. So they needed a shortcut. You build a factory, you turn on the lights, you build a wealthy suburb, you put up street lamps.
So nighttime lights became like the ultimate economic hack.
The perfect shortcut. It was cheap to measure. You just pull the data from a satellite and count the bright pixels.
Wow.
Yeah. That single assumption directed billions of dollars in global policy. But what these 4 researchers realized is that this so-called law was actually blinding us.
Right. The glowing borders on these night maps are entirely fake.
They're manufactured.
Wait, manufactured how? Like, you're saying the light isn't real?
No, the light is real, but its shape is a swollen illusion of capital.
A swollen illusion.
Yeah. Beneath those bright, smooth smudges of light on the map, tens of thousands of real breathing cities have just vanished.
Swallowed into a data black hole.
Exactly. This is where the mechanics of the science become really, really important, because the bigger a city gets and the brighter its lights become.
The more wildly we misunderstand its actual shape.
Right.
But why? Like, if the maps are lying, what exactly is the camera in space getting so wrong? I mean, it's just a camera.
It comes down to the hardware. The satellite sensors originally used to capture these images were never designed to measure human economics.
Wait, really? What were they for?
A lot of this foundational data came from defense satellites built in the 1970s. Their primary job was to track clouds by moonlight for the military.
Oh, wow. So they're basically weather cameras.
Highly sensitive weather cameras, and they are completely overwhelmed by intense, concentrated artificial light.
So it's a hardware glitch colliding with bad economic assumptions.
Precisely. Science calls this phenomenon the blooming effect.
The blooming effect.
Yeah. But in the context of our deep dive today, it is really the halo effect of extreme wealth.
The richer you are, the more you swell on the map.
Exactly.
Okay, walk me through the physics of this blooming effect.
Right.
What actually happens on the ground when a rich city turns on all its neon signs?
The camera basically panics. The intense light from a wealthy downtown doesn't just go straight up into the lens, it bounces.
It bounces around.
Right. It reflects off concrete and glass. It scatters into the atmosphere, especially if there's humidity or dust or pollution in the air.
Which there always is in a big city.
Exactly. This scattered light bleeds outward. It literally infects the surrounding pixels on the digital sensor. So relatively compact, ultra-rich downtown ends up looking like a massive, sprawling metropolis on the image.
Okay, it's like someone taking a flash photo in a dark room.
That's a great way to put it.
Right. The brightest thing in the room totally blinds the lens. Everything else gets washed out in the glare. And the bright object looks twice as big as it really is.
That is the perfect analogy. You can't see the edges, you just see a blinding white blob.
And the researchers knew this glare was a problem, right? Like, they aren't stupid.
No, they saw the blooming effect. So to clean up the data, they tried to filter it.
Okay, how do you filter glare?
They told the computer algorithms to establish a high brightness threshold. The logic was, let's strictly map only the absolute brightest, undeniable city centers.
Ah, so you don't accidentally count empty desert that's just catching the reflection.
Right.
Okay, that sounds like a reasonable fix. You raise the threshold, you cut through the glare. What happened when they did that in this study?
They applied this strict threshold to India, and the algorithm only found 469 cities in the entire country.
Wait, hold on. Only 469 cities
That's it.
in a country of over 1.4 billion people. That cannot be right.
It is wildly incorrect, but that is what the high threshold night map spits out. Just 469 elite, ultra-rich hubs.
That is insane.
It found the absolute wealthiest centers of capital, and everyone else, literally hundreds of millions of people living in smaller, less affluent urban areas, simply disappeared into the dark.
Because they didn't meet the light requirement.
Exactly. The algorithm just determined they were empty rural space.
So by trying to fix the glare, they accidentally erased thousands of normal towns. That's a total disaster. They must have realized that wasn't working either.
Oh, they did. So they tried the exact opposite approach.
Okay, what's the opposite?
He said, okay, we're missing the normal people. Let's turn the sensitivity way up. Let's lower the threshold.
So a dimmer town can trigger the map.
Right. They set the light threshold down to a very low score, a digital number of just 10.
10 out of what?
10 out of 63.
Okay, very low. So what happens then? Do the normal towns suddenly pop up on the map?
The result was an absolute catastrophe. At that lower threshold, the light bleed from the megacities went completely out of control.
Oh, no.
Let's look at New Delhi. When they dropped the threshold to 10, the glowing halo of New Delhi instantly swallowed 3 entire neighboring states.
Wait, what? It swallowed 3 states.
Consumed them on the map.
It just painted over them.
Yes. New Delhi became this borderless, glowing monster. The algorithm read this massive, blooming puddle of weak, scattered light and declared it to be a single, unbroken city.
How big of a city?
Roughly the size of the American state of Iowa.
A single city the size of Iowa. That is a geographical nightmare. No city functions like that.
Exactly. It consumed incredibly distinct, independent cities that have millions of their own people.
Like what?
Places like Meerut. It's tens of kilometers away. It has its own economy, its own government, its own distinct culture.
But the camera just lumped it all together.
The night camera turned them all into one fake, continuous super blob.
So the night camera is basically trapped in a paradox.
Yeah.
It is utterly blind to reality.
Totally blind.
It either uses a high threshold and only sees the mega-rich, completely erasing the poor, or it uses a low threshold and turns the mega-rich into a giant monster that eats every surrounding town in a 50-mile radius.
Yep. Either way, it cannot see the truth of how human beings actually live.
Which brought the researchers of this NBER paper to a radical conclusion. If you want to understand true human economic geography,
You have to throw away the night maps entirely.
you have to ditch the night, you have to turn on the sun.
Exactly. They ditched the night data. They realized that light is a proxy for wealth, sure, but it is a terrible proxy for existence.
Wow. That's a powerful way to put it. A terrible proxy for existence.
Right. So they turned to high-resolution daytime satellite imagery, specifically a system called MODIS.
MODIS.
Yeah, moderate resolution imaging spectroradiometer.
Okay, so they stopped looking for light. And they started looking for concrete.
Concrete, steel, asphalt. Physical, human effort.
How does a daytime satellite actually do that? I mean, I want to understand the mechanics here. Because they didn't just sit there looking at photos and circling buildings by hand, right?
No, doing that for a whole subcontinent would take a lifetime. They use machine learning. The MODIS satellite captures data across all these different spectral bands.
Okay.
And different materials on the Earth's surface reflect sunlight differently.
Ah, like a fingerprint.
Exactly. Concrete has a specific spectral signature. Asphalt has a signature. Corrugated iron roofs have a signature.
And dirt or trees look completely different to the sensor.
Right. Bare soil and vegetation have entirely different signatures, so they trained a sophisticated machine learning algorithm to recognize the specific spectral fingerprint of the built environment.
So it ignores the natural landscape and just tags the actual structures where people live and trade.
Yes!
That is brilliant. And the daytime data completely ripped the curtain back.
It destroyed the nighttime illusion. The numbers are just staggering.
Give me the numbers.
Remember, the strict night map only found 469 glowing VIP cities in India.
Right.
But when the daytime satellites scanned for actual concrete and steel, they detected an astonishing 12,953 distinct urban markets.
Let that sink in for a second. The night map found 469. The day map found nearly 13,000.
It's mind-blowing.
We were missing over 12,000 distinct economic ecosystems, simply because they didn't glow bright enough at 2 a.m.
The illusion of the continuous glowing megacity was just shattered. Human society is not made up of a few giant glowing beasts seamlessly expanding outward.
It's not a blob.
No, it is thousands upon thousands of jagged, broken, isolated islands of survival.
Islands of survival. And this reveals, like, a terrifying truth about global inequality, doesn't it?
It really does. It exposes a deeply painful social anxiety. Because the daytime satellites can see their roofs, they can see the dense, sprawling concrete jungles these people have built.
They can see the packed dirt roads,
Yeah.
the tightly clustered markets.
Millions of people are living in these highly dense, highly active urban zones.
But when the sun goes down, they do not have the power to shine.
They might have a few weak bulbs, maybe a single street lamp for a whole block, but they don't have the sustained, massive electrical grid of a capital city.
So they are literally trapped in the dark.
Trapped in the dark, the researchers analyzed these newly discovered daytime markets. And in these dense but invisible zones, the average nightlight intensity score is a mere 5.
A score of 5. And what are the rich metropolises scoring on that exact same scale?
The wealthy urban cores are blasting scores of 30, 40, even 60.
I hear this, and my mind immediately goes to the human cost. Like, you're saying millions of people are literally invisible to economic planners just because they can't afford a brightly lit street.
Yes, because they lack persistent glowing infrastructure, the official nighttime models treat their dense concrete homes as if they were empty farmland.
They are the unlit majority.
Exactly. They constitute a massive foundational base of the population, yet they are entirely erased from the global economic narrative.
It's tragic. But the daytime truth doesn't just reveal hidden towns, right? It also violently destroys our idea of what a major city actually looks like.
Completely. We have this deep obsession with smoothness in urban planning.
Bureaucrats love a smooth line.
Oh, people in power love smooth borders. Smooth circles are easy to manage.
Right. They look clean on a PowerPoint presentation. They make taxation and zoning look super organized.
Exactly. Official maps almost always draw cities as perfect, sweeping polygons. And the nighttime light maps reinforce this. Because of the blooming effect, the light bleeds out into a perfectly smooth, rounded blob.
It makes a city look like a drop of water peacefully expanding on a table.
But the daylight satellites just laughed at this. When the machine learning algorithm tracked the actual physical buildings, the borders of the city weren't smooth at all.
What did they look like?
They are brutally jagged. They look like scars across the landscape, like shattered glass.
That makes so much sense when you think about how human beings actually build things. Capital moves like a virus. It doesn't grow in a perfect uniform circle.
No, it leaps forward aggressively. It follows the path of least resistance and highest profit.
Right.
The researchers use something called the disconnection index.
Okay, what's that?
It's a mathematical way to measure how fragmented a city's footprint is. Think of it like measuring the perimeter of a shape relative to its total area.
Okay, so a perfect circle has a very low disconnection index.
Exactly. But a shape with 1,000 tentacles reaching out in every direction, that has a very high disconnection index.
Got it. And the nightlights suggested cities were compact, unified, low-index circles.
While the daytime concrete showed their disconnection index was actually off the charts, they are severely fragmented.
Because capital aggressively follows highways. It clings to train tracks.
It builds dense industrial parks right near shipping hubs, and then completely abandons whatever land is not immediately profitable.
So you get these long, jagged tentacles of concrete reaching out along a new highway. But wait, what about the spaces between those tentacles? What's in the gaps between the jagged edges?
Those gaps are the discarded zones.
The leftover spaces.
Right. They might be designated agricultural land that's failing. They might be disputed properties with unclear ownership. Or, very often, they are massive, sprawling slums.
Slums that lack formal concrete roofs.
Exactly. So the satellite doesn't register them as formal markets. The city does not expand peacefully. It infects the landscape. It bypasses the areas that don't serve its immediate economic purpose.
So a city isn't a growing puddle of water smoothly spreading out. It's more like a spider web, reaching out for the juiciest flies and completely ignoring all the empty air in between the silt.
That is exactly what the spatial data shows. A web of intense, jagged development ignoring the spaces in between.
Okay, here's where it gets really, really interesting to me. Because you don't even have to look at the edges of the city out on the fringe to see this rot. You just have to look directly into its glowing heart.
Yes. Close your eyes and picture the dead center of a megacity. What do you envision?
I imagine wall-to-wall buildings. Suffocating density, skyscrapers touching each other. Concrete absolutely everywhere. No space to breathe.
That is the core illusion of the nighttime map.
It's fake.
The daytime satellites looked inside those supercities, right under the absolute brightest nighttime lights. And what they found rips this myth to shreds.
What did the daytime sensors see in the heart of the glare?
They found giant voids.
Voids. Inside the city center.
Giant voids. The researchers defined an 8-kilometer radius supermarket zone, basically the dense core of a major metropolitan area.
Okay, the absolute center.
Within that supposedly packed central zone, a staggering 77% of the land area has absolutely zero formal buildings.
Wait, I need to pause you there.
Yep.
77%.
Yes.
More than 3/4 of the land right in the middle of a megacity is completely empty of built structure. How is that physically possible?
It is entirely possible when you realize what the light is hiding. The blazing nighttime lights act as a glamorous mask.
The glare again?
The light bleeds over the top of the landscape, making the entire 8-kilometer circle look like a solid block of wealth. But underneath that canopy of light, there is severe spatial tearing.
So the light is literally painting over the reality on the ground. It's hiding massive inequality. But what is actually in those voids if it isn't concrete buildings? Like, it's not just empty grass.
It hides barren wasteland, abandoned industrial sites, but mostly it hides deeply impoverished, unbuilt areas. Slums where the structures are made of tarps, scrap wood, mud, materials that the satellite doesn't recognize as formal concrete development.
Oh, why?
The light makes urban areas seem impossibly cohesive and uniformly wealthy.
So from space, it looks like a glowing beacon of shared prosperity. But on the ground, it's a Hollywood set. It's a facade full of massive dark holes.
Exactly. And this chaotic, unequal growth is not a mistake.
It's not just bad city planning.
No, these voids aren't accidents. They perfectly obey a terrifying cold-blooded rule of economics.
You're talking about the power law.
Yes. In spatial economics, it's often referred to as Zipf's law.
Zipf's law.
It is a ruthless mathematical truth that governs natural selection in the economy.
I want to break this down because this law explains why the poor never catch up, right? It explains why fringe towns constantly get sucked dry by the megacities.
Yeah.
How exactly does Zipf's law work?
In very simple terms, Zipf's law states that if you rank cities by their size, the size of a city is inversely proportional to its rank.
Okay. What does that look like in reality?
So the second largest city will be exactly half the size of the largest city.
Okay.
The third largest will be 1/3 the size. The 10th largest will be 1/10 the size.
Wow. So it's incredibly predictable.
It creates the steep, predictable curve where the top one or two cities are unimaginably massive, and then it aggressively drops off into thousands of tiny dots.
It's a mathematical law of dominance. The massive cities sit at the very top, wielding immense gravitational pull. They hoard the capital, the talent, the infrastructure.
While the tiny towns are scattered at the bottom, literally fighting for the scraps that fall off the table.
Brutal. And when the researchers plotted the daytime data of those 12,953 physical markets onto a graph,
It perfectly aligned with this brutal law. It drew a terrifyingly straight downward line of distribution. The spatial reality obeys the math perfectly.
but the nightlight data completely failed to see this dynamic.
Completely missed it because the nightlight data only measured the top of the graph. It only measured the winners.
Right.
By cutting off all the towns with a light score below the threshold, the night maps completely missed the long, dark tail of the graph.
And that tail is where the vast majority of human beings actually live.
Exactly. The nightlights essentially chopped the economic reality in half. They only validated the existence of the elite, making it look like the country was just a collection of successful mid to large cities.
It's like claiming to understand the entire ocean by only studying the white foam on the top of the highest waves.
That's a great analogy.
You are completely ignoring the crushing depths below. You are ignoring the vast ecosystem where all the actual life is struggling to survive.
And if we connect this back to the bigger picture, the tragedy deepens. Because even within those winning megacities, even within the foam on the top of the waves, there is no unity.
The foam itself is fighting.
Exactly.
This was one of the most surprising parts of the research for me. A supercity is not a team.
Not at all.
We think of a city like London or New York or Mumbai as one unified entity working toward a common economic goal. But the daytime data reveals it is actually a multi-center war zone.
A cage match for dominance. The researchers proved this by looking at how resources are hoarded within the core. Let's go back inside that 8-kilometer supermarket zone.
The one with the huge void.
Right. Because of those voids, you do not find one harmonious, continuous city center.
You find fractured strata.
You find, on average, about 4 completely fractured microcities trapped inside the same official border.
4 distinct, highly dense hubs of concrete, separated by dead space.
And these hubs do not share with each other. This is the tyranny of the biggest, playing out on a microscopic level.
The biggest one just eats everything.
The agglomeration effect is absolute. The single largest 1-kilometer core inside that zone will ruthlessly hoard up to 58% of all the area's physical resources.
Let's just visualize that. You have an 8-kilometer circle. Inside it, one tiny 1-kilometer nucleus is hoarding nearly 60% of everything.
The commercial real estate, the paved roads, the massive electrical grids, the wealth.
And the other 3 microcities, despite being just a mile or 2 away, are left to starve.
The invisible walls are absolute.
I have to push back here for a second, though. I mean, if they are in the same city, they are governed by the exact same mayor, right? They share the same municipal budget. How can 1 mile make such a devastating difference? Don't the politicians step in to balance it out?
Political boundaries don't dictate capital flow. Gravity does.
Gravity.
The central core has the primary transit hubs, the highest property values, and the corporate headquarters. When a city gets a massive grant to improve infrastructure, where do they put it?
They put it where the economic return is highest.
They reinforce the strongest core. The wealth continuously collapses inward. You can live in the exact same city as a billionaire, but if you are outside that specific 1-kilometer core, you are separated by an uncrossable economic barrier.
So we're building these incredible, glittering, modern cities. But functionally, we're basically just building medieval castles with modern moats inside them.
I love that. Modern moats.
Right. We are building heavily fortified centers of wealth, surrounded by deserts of neglect. The moats are real. They just aren't filled with water.
They're filled with dead space and bypassed infrastructure. Which brings us to the mechanism of how these modern moats get built in the first place.
How does a moat get built?
Follow the asphalt, follow the roads.
Every time a country or the World Bank announces they are building a massive new highway system, the narrative is universally positive.
Always.
They tell you it will lift everyone out of poverty. They tell you it connects the forgotten regions to the world. Pave a road, save a village. That's the promise.
It is the great infrastructure myth of our time, and the daytime satellite data completely obliterates it.
Destroys it.
The researchers tracked what happens to local markets when a major new road is paved nearby.
Okay, what happens?
Move just 2 kilometers away from a newly paved main highway. Just 2 kilometers.
What happens to a town that is 2 kilometers off the exit?
It suffers a death drop.
A death drop.
The town's physical area shrinks by 50%.
Wait, 50%? The footprint of the town is cut in half just for being 2 kilometers away from the asphalt. Why does that happen?
Because of the bypass effect. Think about it. Before the highway, trade moved slowly. Truckers had to stop in local towns for food, fuel, lodging. Local markets thrived on that friction.
They captured the money as it passed through.
Exactly. But when you build a high-speed, frictionless highway, the traffic blasts right past the small towns. The capital doesn't stop.
It just drives right by.
It travels directly from one massive megacore to the next massive megacore. The small town is bypassed, its local economy suffocates, businesses close, and the physical footprint of the town literally collapses.
And their light score plummets too, right?
Violently plummets. It drops from a blazing 20 down to a dim 8. 2 kilometers is the literal distance between economic life and death.
2,000 meters. That's a 20-minute walk. That is the edge of the world. But wait, someone has to be benefiting from these roads. Like, who gets to ride on the highway to success?
The researchers wanted to know the exact same thing, so they calculated something called the Market Access Index.
Market Access Index.
Okay. It measures how much easier it is to reach trading partners after a new road is built.
And who captured the benefit? Let me guess.
Up to 40% of the total benefit of the new road network went strictly to connecting the rich supercores to other rich supercores within the major metropolitan areas.
So the rich are just using public money to build faster roads to each other.
Exactly. The poor are not connecting to the grid. They are marginalized by the concrete.
It's a closed loop.
The rich are building a closed-loop VIP network. It actively and intentionally bypasses the poor. Building a highway doesn't bridge the gap between the rich and the poor. It just accelerates the speed at which the wealth can travel right past the marginalized without having to look at them.
They lay the asphalt right past the starving village. The trucks don't stop. The money doesn't stop.
Wow.
That is infuriating.
It really is.
And to see the ultimate tragedy of this system of bad data and ruthless capital working together, we only need to look at one specific case study from the paper.
The researchers highlighted a devastating example in India.
Look at the industrial giant of Ahmedabad. It's a massive economic engine in the state of Gujarat. Over 5.5 million people live there.
Right. And if you look at Ahmedabad on the official high-threshold night maps, it is a flawless, terrifyingly huge globe of blinding light.
It looks perfectly smooth. And it looks entirely alone in the dark.
But the perfect lie.
Because just a few kilometers outside that blinding glow is the city of Naidiad.
And Naidiad isn't some tiny village.
No, 200,000 people live there. 200,000 human beings. They have a vibrant local economy. They have businesses, homes, schools, hospitals.
But look at what the algorithms do to them.
Erasure.
If you use the strict night map with the high threshold, the one meant to filter out the glare, Naidiad's light simply doesn't meet the requirement.
So the computer decides it's just background noise.
The city is erased, simply vanishes from the map.
And if the planners use the loose night map, the one with the low threshold that tries to find the smaller towns,
then Ahmedabad's massive blooming light bleeds over. The glare expands outward like a shock wave, digests Naidiad whole, and absorbs it into the giant blob.
So either way, Naidiad dies on the map.
It is either a ghost city that doesn't exist, or it is eaten alive and classified as just another irrelevant suburb of Ahmedabad.
Capital and bad data work together to literally erase a city of 200,000 people from the authoritative maps of the world.
This is the ultimate tragic destiny of the fringe town. It is algorithmic erasure.
This is infuriating when you think about the real-world consequences. A planner sitting in a capital city, allocating a national budget, looks at the map where Naidiad is supposed to be. If it's the strict map, they say nobody's out there. It's empty land. Don't build a water treatment plant. Don't send federal education funds.
And if it's the loose map, they say, oh, that's just part of Ahmedabad. Give the money to Ahmedabad's mayor. I'm sure it will trickle down.
But it never trickles down because of the invisible moats.
Exactly.
There are 200,000 people physically standing there, completely starved by the data.
They get no independent resources. They are governed by an optical illusion.
Which forces us to look forward. we have to ask a terrifying question about the future of this technology.
We all cheer for machine learning. We cheer for these incredible 30-meter resolution satellites. We love the idea of having perfect granular data,
We think seeing everything will solve everything.
the God's eye view. We assume that better data automatically leads to better empathy and better policy.
But this technology is a double-edged sword.
Very much so. By crossing the daytime concrete data with the nighttime light data, the system now possesses an unprecedented level of surveillance. It is the ultimate unmasking.
Wait, what do you mean by unmasking? Who is being unmasked?
The global poor. The system now knows exactly where the money is, yes, but much more dangerously, it knows exactly where the massive impoverished populations are trapped. It knows exactly where the dark, dense concrete jungles are hiding.
It can pinpoint millions of people who have physical structures but no access to the power grid.
It is a dimensional strike. This is a devastating downgrade in privacy for the most vulnerable people on Earth.
Because before, they were ignored by the state.
Oh.
That meant neglect, sure, but it also meant a certain kind of freedom from state control.
Now they are targeted. This level of information resolution will completely rewrite the rules of social class control for the next 50 years.
You cannot hide from a 30-meter resolution satellite algorithm.
An algorithm that knows exactly what material your roof is made of and knows you don't have the electricity to turn on a light bulb.
Trillions of dollars are pouring into developing nations right now. We see these massive global infrastructure funds, and we dream of a great wave of shared human wealth. We want to believe that a rising tide lifts all boats.
But look through the eyes of the daytime satellite. Look at the jagged borders. Look at the 77% voids. Look at the disconnected highways.
The wealth is not spreading smoothly like a rising tide.
It is behaving like a collapsing star.
The resources are violently collapsing inward. They are being sucked into a few elite, multi-centered black holes. These wealthy cores hoard all the roads, they hoard all the infrastructure, and they hoard all the light.
The dazzling economic lights we see from space are just a glamorous cover-up. They're a distraction. They hide the jagged ruins at the edges.
They hide the massive internal voids of poverty.
They hide the desperate, unlit reality of human struggle taking place right next door to the neon.
It really makes you wonder, are we just repeating the darkest parts of human history? Have we learned absolutely nothing about how to build a civilization?
Think about the imperial delusion. Look back at the Roman Empire or the heights of the British Empire. The elites always sit securely in their capitals.
They sit in Rome or London. They look at their beautifully paved streets, their aqueducts, their brightly lit palaces. They marvel at their own success. They think they have conquered and civilized the entire world.
Meanwhile, they are utterly blind to the starving, dark, discarded, heavily taxed villages just miles beyond the city walls. They only measure the success of the world by the extent of their own immediate luxury.
The modern irony is painful. Today, we built rockets. We put hyper-advanced cameras into orbit. We achieved miracles of science that the Romans couldn't even dream of.
And yet we somehow use those miracles to construct the exact same delusional cocoon. We built a digital empire of light that blinded us to the dark.
We replicated the arrogance of Rome, but we did it in low Earth orbit.
This NBER study isn't just an academic critique of satellite mapping. It is a massive wake-up call. It is a desperate technological jailbreak from our own hubris.
The researchers prove that we actually can see the truth of how the poor live, if we actually choose to look for it. We have to stop worshiping the light. We have to start looking at the concrete, jagged reality on the ground.
Because knowledge is only valuable when it is understood and applied. We have the data now. We have the daytime market metrics. We know exactly where those 12,953 isolated islands of survival are.
The question is no longer whether we can see them. The question is whether we will actually draw roads that stop in their towns, or if we will just continue to build highways that bypass them. And it leaves you with a chilling thought that extends way beyond city planning. Think about the algorithms running your life right now.
Oh, absolutely.
The AI deciding whether you get approved for a mortgage. The algorithm feeding you your news and shaping your worldview. The code predicting your future in the job market.
It's all connected.
If the most advanced satellites and the smartest economists in human history were accidentally trained to only see the light, and in doing so, erased hundreds of millions of poor people from existence, what invisible dark spaces in your own society is AI currently writing out of existence, simply because they don't shine bright enough for the machine to care?